Tensions in the Middle East continue to rise following new military exchanges involving the United States and Iran, raising fresh concerns about regional stability and the future of recent diplomatic efforts. According to statements released by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC, Iranian forces have launched strikes against U.S. military positions in the region after accusing Washington of violating the recently announced Memorandum of Understanding by conducting strikes on Iranian coastal infrastructure. The IRGC claimed the U.S. attacks targeted facilities connected to Iran's operations near the Strait of Hormuz. Iranian officials argue that the agreement assigned Iran responsibility for coordinating maritime traffic through the strategic waterway, and they accuse the United States of undermining those arrangements through military action. The United States has offered a different account. U.S. Central Command confirmed it carried out strikes against what it described as Iranian missile, drone storage, and radar sites, saying the operation was a response to what it called Iranian aggression against commercial shipping in the region. American officials maintain that Iran violated the ceasefire first and say their military actions were defensive. Iran strongly rejects that accusation. Iranian officials insist their actions were consistent with their interpretation of the Memorandum of Understanding and argue that any vessel passing through the Strait of Hormuz must coordinate with Iranian authorities under the terms of the agreement. They have warned that further military action by the United States could trigger additional retaliation. The latest developments come as questions continue to surround the implementation of the memorandum itself. Iranian officials maintain that the document is a binding agreement whose provisions must be respected immediately. Meanwhile, Secretary of State Marco Rubio recently described the memorandum as a framework designed to guide future negotiations rather than a final agreement containing all long-term details. That difference in interpretation has become a major point of disagreement between both sides. Another issue generating attention involves reconstruction funding discussed during earlier negotiations. When asked whether Gulf Cooperation Council nations had committed financial support reportedly referenced during negotiations, Secretary Rubio said those discussions had not yet taken place and would be addressed later in the diplomatic process. Iranian officials argue that the United States is failing to honor commitments made during negotiations, while American officials continue to emphasize that additional talks are necessary before long-term implementation can move forward. Meanwhile, reports also indicate that cyberattacks have disrupted several major Iranian banks in recent days. Iranian media and cybersecurity analysts have suggested the attacks may be linked to broader regional tensions, although responsibility has not been officially confirmed. The incidents temporarily affected banking services across parts of the country and have added another layer of uncertainty to an already volatile situation. Attention has also turned to Lebanon. The United States recently announced what officials described as a framework aimed at reducing hostilities between Israel and Lebanon. However, Hezbollah was not involved in those discussions and has rejected the proposal, while Israeli officials continue to insist that security conditions must be met before any military withdrawal takes place. As diplomatic disagreements continue, military activity across the region remains elevated, with analysts warning that additional escalation could further complicate negotiations. President Donald Trump has continued expressing optimism that future agreements with Iran remain possible, stating during a recent appearance that Iran is interested in reaching a broader deal. Iranian leaders, however, have publicly disputed those remarks and continue accusing Washington of acting in bad faith. With both governments presenting sharply different versions of recent events, the future of the Memorandum of Understanding remains uncertain. International observers say the coming days will be critical in determining whether diplomacy can regain momentum or whether the current military exchanges will lead to a broader regional crisis. You're listening to our National Affairs Bulletin. Thank you for listening, and stay tuned for more national and international news throughout the day.